Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. I hope everyone is having a great start to your trading day here. Big news out so far this morning was, of course, the PPI numbers, uh, Producer Price Index. It rose about 0.2% month over month, lower than expected, showing a little bit of break maybe for inflation. Market immediately took a move to the upside. You can see QQQ, the NASDAQ here, took a nice little move up here. Whoops, got to get back onto the 3-minute chart here. QQQ, you can see that nice spike up here right at the 8:30 mark when the news came out, went as high as 510.32. But we've sold off about half of that gain so far. So again, now we got some good news. They're going to lead the market. Looks like the market does open slightly up about a half a point on the QQQ SPY, a little bit lower than that. But you can see that we are seeing, again, similar to what we saw yesterday, where any type of gains to the upside are being fairly quickly sold off. So we'll keep an eye on that. And what I would more say is we've seen sort of a nothing burger from this PPI number. I talked a little bit with Stephen Flanagan about that yesterday. Would we maybe, I don't think that any of these numbers are personally going to move the market much one way or the other. And that's what we've seen so far this morning. I think it's going to take some earnings reports, especially tomorrow, when most of the financial companies being led by JP Morgan, Citibank, etc., have earnings tomorrow. So I do think that will be a bigger component to maybe seeing us start to rally a little bit here. Another thing I was talking or thinking about last night is kind of funny. I mean, not funny, but an observation is, we're going to have the administration change here in about 6 days, 7 days. And, if you had looked following the election, everything had just been going absolutely skyrocketing up, right? We saw, the SPY move from about 57.75 up to the all-time high there, just below 6,100. We've retraced all of that and even a little bit more here this morning, at where we're at this morning, which, will be interesting because it sets up the new administration to be able to have some really good first-year numbers where if they'd come in really strong, we had seen a continuation here through December all the way into the inauguration. It would have been much harder for the next administration to have a solid first year. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. Doesn't really affect the market one way or another. I was just an observation I came across, as I started to look at things last night. Other news so far this morning, or let's talk a little bit about the pre-market movers. Pre-market gainers so far this morning, we're seeing, and this has been moving a little bit, so let's double check this. So when it comes to the S&P and the NASDAQ 100, biggest gainers so far this morning, United Rental Inc.'s up about 4.48%. Celanese up 3.74%. Invesco 3.59%. MicroStrategy about 3.23%. I will say MicroStrategy's shown some volatility already this morning. It was up. It was the leader in this just right before I came on. So we're definitely seeing some volatility there. Timo's parent company, PDD, one of the Chinese depository companies here in the U.S., up about 3.21%. And then my other big takeaway from this morning is, a lot of these have individual reasons why they're up. MicroStrategy based upon Bitcoin having a good day, regaining 96,000 and looking good. And PDD being a beneficiary of maybe some stimulus in China. The other sort of thing I'm seeing today, the pattern I'm seeing, is a lot of the home builders looking pretty good today. Lennar Corporation up about 2.95%. Builders First Source up 2.92%. DR Horton up 2.7%. Pulte Group up almost 2.7%. The reason for that, again, has to do with the wildfire. So there'll be home builders will be back in business all around California, where these fires are rebuilding. So that is positive. The inflation numbers also help out those home builders, right? Maybe mortgages will come down, rates will come down, and we can see some more attractive rates. So we are seeing a theme of the builders up today. We'll point out also Mag 7 looking pretty good this morning, as we were seeing NVIDIA with a nice little rebound here, up 1.84%. The other big one was Tesla, up about 2.6% here. So we are seeing a little bit of a move back and forth here across the indices. When I look overseas to see what was happening here, overnight, we did see some positive movement here out of the stock 600. In Europe, it has been pulling back here after making highs earlier this morning around 511. We are seeing ourselves back down around 510.20, but still positive on the day there. The Shanghai, again, China, with a nice little move up here, about 2.54% in their major composite index overnight. And then the Nikkei, where our main man, Big Beat, is today, I believe. He's either at the Jetro today and Nikkei tomorrow, or Nikkei today. Not sure, but he is over there. And Nikkei down about a third of a percentage point here. Some other big movers today when it comes to commodities I was looking at. Of course, we started to talk about Bitcoin there briefly. You can see after really bottoming out in that 89,000 range yesterday, made a nice recovery move up, challenging to get through resistance here at that 96, 200 range. You've got a couple of zones of resistance here to get through. We'd have to clear the 97.5 for me to think that we have, more room to move here on Bitcoin to the upside today. But that would be the big area to look at, that 50-day MA here. Gold still stuck pretty much in that same area we've been in here. You can see that gold's been since, beginning of November in a fairly tight range, with highs just above 2,700, right around 2,720, and lows basically near that 2,584 point. So it's been stuck in that range. It did hit towards the top of the range and pulled back the last 2 days. We'll see if it finds any support today. It did look like it wanted to move up pre-market before those PPI numbers. We'll see if that continues to be the case. Silver, again, still below that 30 handle. Silver's been under a little bit more pressure than some of the other metals here. Hasn't been able to hold above 30, again, going back towards the middle of December. So that's what I'm looking at there. The other one I'll point out here, nat gas down back below 4, and again, I pointed out when it hit 4.5 here yesterday was probably the time to short it. It did hit that level, and you can see it was. Again, I don't want to take too much credit for that, as Big Beat was the guy that mentioned to me last time that it got to 450. He went in on a short. So all I did was basically reiterate what he had mentioned the last time we saw that spike to 450. And you can see history did repeat itself, and we've had a pullback here nicely to that 3.9 level, even hit as low as 3.871 overnight. So again, we did see a nice little move to the downside there on nat gas. Dow looks to be opening to the positive, SPY to the positive, QQQ to the positive. So we're happy to see that. Looking at oil, we did pull back there again also. So, we've seen a little bit of a pullback. Here, like I said, on natural gas, oil, and now Brent and WTI. We know that Brent had broken well above 80, all the way up towards 81 and change before pulling back a little bit here. WTI didn't get, I don't think, above 78. It tried to broach the 78 handle and has since pulled back. We do see rates continuing to rise. They had actually been moving down earlier this morning. I actually have on my notes on treasuries that they'd actually look like they were cooling off. But again, that was before we got the info here. And you can see again, right at 8:30, it took a big drop down and now has regained all of where it was before PPI numbers, and looking, it seems to go to the upside here, challenging that 4.8 level again here this morning. And again, the 30-year wants to try to break, it looks like to me, over the 5% mark here. So not a lot of help on the rates, even with that good inflation numbers. That's why I say earnings is the thing that's going to have to take us to the next level. As we start to look through the SPIDA index funds, again, one of the things I like to do each morning, take a look at the SPIDA index funds. They break up the S&P into the 11 sectors. We see that the energy sector, which has been on absolute fire since just before Christmas, continuing to move to the upside here yesterday, but so far a little bit of a pullback here this morning, slowing down. We do see a little bit of a better performance out of XLU, which is the utilities, and we're seeing that they bounced off of that 200-day MA and trying to regain there. Sorry about that. And then we have XLK here. Hey, Ron, hope everything's doing well, my friend. XLK, which is the technology sector, up about a little over half a point. It's one of the leaders so far this morning. XLY, which is consumer discretionary, is up the most, up almost a full percentage point this morning. We do have a couple of laggards, though. You do have XLC, which is the communication sector, down about 0.24%, and XLV, which is healthcare, also dragging down a little bit. I will say also, as more of a theme for the day, yesterday we saw most of the healthcare companies, right, were moving up. Today we're seeing the opposite of that. They are, again, selling off some of those gains. So what we're still seeing is most gains getting sold off fairly quickly here. Taking a look at the crypto markets. Crypto's total market cap has risen back up almost 1.75% now, shooting up a little bit here again after the 830 PPI numbers. So nice move up to 3.26 trillion there. Bitcoin, as I mentioned, had been down as low as 89,000 yesterday, now retraced all the way back up to 96,233, and any kind of break over this 50-day MA would give us a nice little room back towards 100 here. But you know, that 50-day MA has been tough to break through in general. Ethereum up about 2%, Solana up about 2%. Some of the bigger winners were Doge up about 3.3. It was up even a little bit more earlier today. Near, one of the layer 2 blockchains, up about 3.56. And then Chainlink, which is an Oracle's, very important for bringing on off-chain data onto a blockchain, up about 3.72%. But crypto in general, mostly in the green here today. With that being said, I do want to touch on Gary Gensler was on CNBC earlier this morning. And again, another man sort of similar to what we saw from Lena Khan, who just won't come to reality that, you know, he didn't have a good term in as the SEC chairman. They dragged him pretty hard on the crypto subject. And, you know, his comment, and this is where one of the comments that I think upsets me the most about the last administration is the comments where he just keeps pointing to the fact that the capital markets didn't break down under his watch, that, you know, the trillions and trillions of dollars that are in bonds and equities and stocks and options, they didn't crash when he was in charge. And that was what his mantra was, and that crypto is just such a small piece of the world, it doesn't matter. And that's where he and Elizabeth Warren and some of these other people who maybe shouldn't really be involved in the technology decisions about financial innovation have it wrong, right? Because what they did is they slowed down financial innovation here in the US. They slowed down the formation of digital assets. They that whole process, and now it's restarting, and we're going to see it, you know, just absolutely explode under the new administration. And it's going to be good for the markets. It's going to speed up markets. What, blockchain and crypto has done, and we've already seen it, is, it's taken the archaic stock market system that used to take 3 days to settle things, then 2 days, and now is still at +1, where it takes a full day for Schwab and those guys to settle your stuff. At the crypto exchanges and using blockchain, that happens in a matter of seconds. And that's why we see companies like BlackRock adopting the use of blockchain to issue their treasury funds that they do overseas with Biddle, and others that are following suit. That financial innovation was lost under Gary Gensler. And, again, and what they pointed out nicely is that, I want to say it correctly. They pointed out again that by not, that you could have either regulated it and maybe over-regulated it, but that would have been okay because it would have given a roadmap for people who wanted to know how they had to do things. And that's what the industry was asking for, was saying, show us the rules of the road so that we can follow them. No, don't tell us the rules of the road are already in place because we've had security laws and things in places since the Howey test, and that set an actual path forward like we're going to see now. We're already seeing, in Europe with MiCA, like we've seen in Asia, with their regulatory authorities, and throughout, a lot of the world outside of the U.S., we're basically the last developed countries to, get regulations in place when it comes to financial innovation and, and blockchain and crypto and such. So I'll get off of my horse on that. But I did want to mention it because like I said, it just gets frustrating when Alina Khan comes on and says, no, we did nothing wrong. Meanwhile, what happened to Spirit Airlines? You didn't allow them to merge, and now they're out of business. How did you protect the American consumer there? You didn't. So, okay, let's see what we've got going on. We are about 14 minutes from the open. Tick has been staying pretty positive here throughout the morning. After that 8:30 news, the tick was negative, leading into it. So I like to see that moving in the positive direction. Again, advanced decline. We really can't look at that. I mean, well, I don't want to say that, because you can look at it if you know that it's going to be very different once we open, because there are, a couple of thousand stocks that don't trade pre or post market that go into this number as soon as we hit. So it does jump, but it does show you right now the ones that do trade in the pre-market. We are seeing 2,287 stocks looking to open to the upside, or 2,295 stocks more than the, I want to say this correctly, there are more stocks opening green than red, to the tune of about 2,288. There we go. It's the difference between the amount of stocks that open positive versus negative. VIX really came down again. We talked about that. VIX, once it gets up into that 22 level and above 20, you're definitely looking to sell out of that in those ranges usually. And again, pulled back about 2% here today. We are seeing a big move up here this morning. Again, one of the bigger gainers out there is Celanese. I do want to mention that part of that is, well, we've seen a lot of analyst upgrades and downgrades today. I'll put them across the bottom of the screen here for us. Some of the upgrades that we saw overnight were Fiserv, Celanese, Cummins, Monarch, a lot of different companies getting some upgrades here overnight. And the biggest mover that I've seen based on those has been Celanese so far. Again, URI, United Rentals, another one up, big. And that is actually after Citigroup downgraded URI and moved their price level. Though when I say that they downgraded them from a like $900 rate down to $835. So still a lot of room to the upside there on URI. Another one that bounced back nicely today after being down about 3.39% was Palantir here. Has regained a key support level here right around that 66.04 level. So we'll see if Palantir can continue its rise up today. One of the ones I was watching here in the pre-markets. As I mentioned, Chinese stocks, and we talked about this with Stephen Flanagan yesterday, right? I mentioned yesterday that it was a good time to look for some Chinese stimulus announcements and a move up there. We see Baba up about 2% here this morning, Baidu up 2.35%, JD up 4% this morning. So a lot of the Chinese names already getting a big move up here. And that's what we said, that, that they had to point out some stimulus here. Again, I talked a little bit about PDD, Temu's parent company, and the fact that they were moving up also. With upgrades, going to talk a little bit about the downgrades. Voya got a downgrade for major companies: Archer Daniels Midland, Element Solutions, Flywire, MasterCard. What was interesting, Visa got an upgrade for one of the analysts yesterday, and MasterCard got a downgrade. So we take a look at those two. We see that MasterCard is bouncing up even this morning, even after that analyst downgrade. So holding up pretty well here. I will say MasterCard's at a nice little support level here at 501. One of the ones I was looking at here, maybe if we see some positivity in the market today, I am going to wait to see what happens here at open. But MasterCard was one I was looking at here for maybe a swing trade to the upside. I was hoping that analyst report was going to maybe take it to the downside, give me a little bit more room there. So we'll see what we get here. And then Visa up almost 0.7 of a percentage point here, again on the analyst upgrade. Visa's in a tricky, this is one you definitely, for me, that I would not be trading at this level, because you can see any move here below this 303 level puts us at risk of closing the gap down to 294, 295. That gap was formed the day of the election. We've seen a few different stocks that are playing this out. So the question is, does it find that floor, that we started basically after the election, or is it going to retrace back into pre-election levels? That's what we're kind of watching here on a bunch of different ones. I noticed Snapchat actually down about 2% yesterday. They had made the big move up on, TikTok being in front of the Supreme Court. I did see an article here. I want to pull it up. Don't want to give you false information here, but it was two things that my takeaways were. Number one, seeing some talk that maybe Elon buys TikTok. I don't know how reasonable that is or isn't, but it is funny to see social media get so excited about it. And again, this article talking about how the Supreme Court signaled an intent to uphold the federal law banning the Chinese-owned app TikTok. I had a laugh because, there's been a huge surge to another Chinese social media site that I won't even try to pronounce, as people think that this TikTok ban might come. I don't get why you would do that here in the U.S. So we'll see. But you would think that Meta, that Snapchat, would be the Twitter would be the winners if TikTok does disappear. We'll see. I mean, I know it's got all those creators are just up in roar. So it will be interesting to see what happens. And that whole generation. I mean, TikTok. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I watch it all the time too. But the younger generation definitely tied into TikTok a lot, as we know. I mentioned a little bit earnings reports today. Not much on track. Calava Growers, Applied Digital Corp, and Caru Limited are the three big earnings reports today. Tomorrow is the big day when it comes to earnings reports. We have most of the major financial service companies on track, led by BK, which is Bank of New York Mellon, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and others. So we do have a wide swath of the banks there. We had our PPI number, discussed that a little bit already this morning. We do have the Beige Book coming out this afternoon. Keep in mind, again, Beige Book is going to give you more in-depth on what the different Fed governors were thinking at the last FOMC meeting. How many were talking about the fact that we need to be cautious, how many were hawkish, how many were dovish, and what was the plot dot line look like, which is where they take all of the sort of estimates that each governor makes and put them on a chart and try to determine which way that's going to move. We do have tomorrow CPI, so we get another inflation number tomorrow. Again, producer price index is more on the side of the industries, manufacturers that buy materials to make things. But the CPI will be our consumer price index, things that we purchase, and where are they? I will say one of the things that brought down producer price index was something that we talked about here last week, right? Was that a big component that had been hurting those inflation was dairy, eggs, some things, orange juice, commodities. We did see a lot of those go to the downside here, especially eggs. So it looks like maybe that bird flu is sort of worked its way out of the Midwest here, and we'll see what we get out of that. But that was positive. But we have CPI tomorrow, which to me is always a more important number because it gauges also where is consumer sentiment is sort of not built into that, but consumer sentiment comes basically from that. So that's what I'll be looking at there. We do have an Empire Manufacturing Survey, which is always a good one to let us know, is industry sort of constricting, staying about the same, or are they growing and expanding? And then on Thursday, we get our initial jobless claims, our U.S. retail sales, and our import price index. And then we also have our small business inventories, our home builder confidence index, all on track this week. So we do still have some numbers. I'll be more interested in what's going on with earnings as opposed necessarily to the economic data. But I will, of course, be watching both. Okay, we are about 4 minutes and tick, continuing to stay in the green here. We are positive about 253 there. We see advanced decline now above the 2400 level. QQQ trying to battle back up here, it looks like. Again, we did hit over 510, right around 510.20 after the PPI number came out, and then we've retraced down. It does look like we're trying to move our way back up here. So I'm hopeful that we have a positive day today, that we see a little bit of strength come in. Yesterday was a little bit of a beat down across the markets. Gold right at that 2660. It really seems pegged in that area. Constellation Energy looking to try to move up here. We know it had a big move down yesterday. Constellation Energy spiked up to that 310 level on the news that they were buying Calpine, the natural gas company. And then yesterday gave back a big portion. You can see if we go in on the daily chart here, you can sort of start to map up the move up here, and you can see it pretty much. We'll hit it. It's taken about a half measured move right back from where it made that move. So it's at a good spot here. So this is an interesting one. CEG here has made the half measured move back. Do we see it continuation today back to the upside, or do we see some downside from it? So we'll have to keep an eye there. Tesla, another one we're watching here this morning that has bounced up nicely yesterday and today. Did that finally found a bottom here towards that 380 area and moving to the upside? Does look like it is trying to move that way. NVIDIA, another one we're keeping a close eye in here. Steve and I are both on trades here on NVIDIA. Both still below water here. I am in at 142. So a little bit still to move back towards my position there. I did not DCA in anymore yesterday. I'm just going to ride this one out for a little bit. It looks like it is moving back. And again, this was a longer term play, not a short term. Celanese now up over 5% here. So definitely still moving up here. MicroStrategy back up over 4% here. So we do see them moving back up. MicroStrategy got to start to look for that resistance from the 50-day MA right around 348 here. A break above 348 on MicroStrategy could be an entry spot here. So again, there are some pretty good setups here to the upside. I do think for the downside, I'm looking more to some of those builders. I think they'll start to play its way out there. Lennar and the others. So I will start to look at some levels here on some of those. It is 9:30 and we are open here. Let's see what we get right off the bat. Our tick is fairly neutral. Start off positive slightly at 53. Advanced decline, like I talked about, jumped up tremendously to 3,600. Don't get nervous about that. That's just the stocks that actually opened that don't trade pre or post market. Excuse me there. Bitcoin trying to make a run at 97 here. So Bitcoin definitely trying to get a run here. You can see that it hit, 97, 339 earlier overnight before sort of the news here. Tick going positive here, 181. So we are starting up, moving to the upside. QQQ 508.12, 508.27, trying to move to the upside here. Again, it's got to break 510.25 here to see us move significantly on a continuation play here. Right now, continuing to see a little bit of a slide as the market opens. Tick is still positive. Dow Jones opened up at 4,500 here. Dow found some good support here towards that 42,000. We're seeing a little bit of a sell-off still here. So a little bit of a sell-off across QQQ, across SPY. Let's take a quick look at the Mag 7, what we got going on there. NVIDIA up about 1.6% here, 135.38. And here you can see on the hourly chart, we've got some resistance forming, or we have resistance. Let me fix that. Here, as we approach, we got to look at that 136.65 area over here on what we hit earlier here. Apple's up about 0.35% here this morning. So again, Apple moving up. I don't have a good spot for Apple here where I like anything. If anything, it looks like you're going to get a little bit of a rollover here. So you got to keep an eye on that. Microsoft 417.91. Did see Microsoft plans to invest $80 billion in AI-driven data centers, with more than half of that allocated to the U.S. markets here. So again, Microsoft looking to build out more data centers here in the U.S. along with abroad. That seems to be a central theme. That's going to be a race to see who can open up these data centers. We know that SoFi, right, is looking to build them out, or SoftBank. We know that the sovereign fund in Dubai and Saudi Arabia looking to build a large amount of data centers out there too. So definitely looking there. Let's take a look and see so far this morning what are our pumpers here. You can see AIFF Firefly Neuroscience, absolutely on fire today. Trading at 536. That is up about 178% here. You watch these pumpers here. That's a tough one to chase here. I don't like that setup for anything. Let's take a look through some of these pumpers there, see if we get a good setup here. Here's an interesting one, NMHI, which is Nature's Miracle. Tell you, if you could get a break here above that 325, you could see a move to the upside here. So we're looking at this 325 area. Also be nice on a pullback to VWAP. Challenge of VWAP and a move to the upside would definitely be a positive here. So NMHI looks to be in play. I'm going to add that to my today's watch list. Let's see here. HES, not enough volume there to play around with. The ERNA, that's looking to run away. Staffing selling off. PHI selling off. Applied Digital, let's take a look here. So Applied Digital is another one that's sort of interesting to hear. Has been moving up in the pre-market hours. If we can break across VWAP, VWAP is the purple line here on my setup, on my chart. To break above that 963 gives you some pretty good room to 1070, 1079. So this is a trade you could definitely look at. If we can break it, though, you got to break through VWAP, see that break, and you could play that on the break of VWAP there. So I do like that as an option here. See what this NMHI is doing. Not able yet to break through that 326 area. It's challenging VWAP here again. So let's see what happens here. This one could give us an entry here again. NMHI. See a little bit of a runner today in quantum computing. We know this has gotten hit pretty hard after NVIDIA's CEO Jensen there talked about AI being 15 to 30 years away, or quantum computing 15 to 30 years away. So let's see what it does here. Not finding anything yet. Here goes NMHI, still trying to do it. Okay, let's take a look here. So Mag 7 again, NVIDIA broke through that 135 level. You got to get through this 136.50 today. Meta getting hit pretty hard today. They did have a nice up day yesterday and on Friday, again, based upon that TikTok news. So not too surprising to see it move the other way here. MicroStrategy continuing to move to the upside here, 5.9% up on the day. You can see trying to challenge the 50-day MA here, right at that 3. Let's give you the exact number, 348.79. So that's what you got to get across, 348.79. So that's what we're watching there. Break above that could give it a nice move to the upside. Let's see what's moving the most out of bigger names. Vistra making a move up here. It looks like Vistra got hit pretty hard. This is a nuclear name moving to the upside nicely again. United Rentals still moving to the upside here. GE Verona having a nice move this morning. Talked about Palantir quickly. It is still moving to the upside a little bit. ARM Holdings. Chip sector definitely leading the way here this morning. NVIDIA now up over 2%. TSM has earnings on Thursday. That's Taiwan Semiconductor. AVGO broadband continuing to climb here, 1.7. ASML up 1.55% here. So in general, seeing a nice move up by the chip sector in general today. In fact, if we look at the spider selects, we're seeing everything is positive. 10 out of the 11 sectors are positive. The only one to the downside is healthcare. And we talked a little bit. Healthcare was the big leader yesterday. Consumer discretionary definitely leading the way here, 1.44%. Tick is remaining positive at 210. Advanced decline, trying to get above 4,000 here. So seeing a nice day so far. We see the VIX down at 1845. QQQ up about 8, almost 9/10 of a percentage point here. We know I talked about the rut yesterday, right? I like small market caps as an area here for a bounce back. You can see a nice move up today, about 1.14%. Bounce right off of that 200-day MA we talked about yesterday, and has made a nice move to the upside here. So rut looking to recover. Bitcoin back over 97,000 here. So Bitcoin catching a bid this morning. Not seeing that in metals. Gold down slightly here, still staying around that 2660 to 2670 area, and silver still below 30. Let's see what I got else. What is the world going on here with Twitter so far today? Let's see if there's anything exciting coming across so far. Bitcoin holding that 97 mark. Again, Bitcoin, what we're worried about is that 50-day MA there also. So similar to what we just talked about. DXY sitting right about 1095. Let's see what's coming across the market so far. Eli Lilly reported preliminary 2024 revenue, missed analyst estimates. Let's see what's going on with Lilly here. LLY. You can see getting hit down about 5.48 on that news. So Eli Lilly here dropping down. It's got a little bit of support here in the 754 area. Drops below that, you're going to want to look at a drop down to that 715 level as being the key support. So got to keep an eye on that. Seeing the cocoa futures gained after chocolate maker Lindt reports strong sale growth, indicating the demand remained resilient despite record prices. Big Beats talked a lot about that. Cocoa has been through the roof this past year. One of the leading commodities out there in 2024 was cocoa. I mean, you can just see here since November, it went up from almost 100% to 12.9, and now sitting in that $11 range. So cocoa continuing to show some resiliency. Also seeing news, we talked a little bit about what's going on in the currency markets with DXY, looking like it wants to challenge 110 earlier. Now pulling back a little bit here, so maybe we won't see that run to 110 today. But what we do have to mention is the sterling hit a 2.5-month low versus the euro overnight, and you can see the euro versus the USD went up about 1/4 point when the sterling fell another 1/4 point. So we still see that Brexit move not paying off yet so far. Seeing another note here, more investment in the U.S. We talked about this yesterday specifically, right? Everybody looking to invest in the U.S. Abu Dhabi's main renewable energy company, is looking to expand its business in the U.S. after taking a 50% stake in TerraGen Power Holdings. So again, we're seeing, a lot of foreign investment here in the U.S. Seeing a lot of news about the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund. They are also Further Ventures, backed by them, is looking to make a $16 million investment in a Paris-based crypto wallet technology firm, which is ADQ. Good company. That's interesting to see that. NVIDIA at 135.47 here. So now still unable to break that 136 and hold. That's been pretty much the case here for it. Amazon up nicely here, 1.44%. MicroStrategy up almost 6% now. So it did break. It still can't break through that 348.79. It's trying, but that is the tough area, 348.79 there. Tesla now up 4%, regaining the 420 handle here. Okay. Natural gas now back above $4 here. So nat gas bouncing back a little bit here after dropping down. It was at 380 earlier today. So we are seeing a nice move back up by natural gas here. Let's see what's going on with WTI and Brent. Now Brent's still under 80. Looks like it's trying to break back above it though here. Bitcoin unable to hold that 97,000 handle, back 96,694 here. So unable so far to break that handle. We see any weakness in Bitcoin today, some of the alts are primed at resistance here. You might want to look at maybe a downward play on Solana here and kind of move towards that 193 and fail. Brings you, room down to that 172, 200-day MA for sure. Tick pretty neutral here at 6, so it looks like that early jump here. We'll see if it can continue to hold. QQQ again, you see any of these spikes up or getting sold off. S&P up about 0.4 of a percentage point so far, but again, not able to hold the strength so far. So it looks like we are turning over so far, not seeing it. Really just not seeing the volume that we had been seeing. Oh, we do have to mention jewelers down today. Jeweler stocks are down. Signet, especially, they lowered their holiday period sales expectations. That is SIG, Signet. We are seeing them get hit here this morning, down about 18%. And that's after that they said customers purchased more affordable items than it anticipated, and it couldn't meet that demand. So it sounds like people were sort of trading down during the Christmas holiday on their gifts. And Signet, which owns Zales and K brands, definitely getting hit hard here. Give me 1 second, everybody. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us at Quasar Markets Live. I appreciate you so much.